Recently, I've been studying a lot of graph theory.
Mm,
That kind of sounds like a graph theory problem, sort of like one problem I solved yesterday on LeetCode. It's like
mm,
you have a you have a bunch of courses and prerequisites. So
okay.
you can't take a course till you've taken the prerequisites. How many semesters would you need to take all the courses? What's the minimum
Mm,
number of semesters you need to take all the courses?
mm.
So that kind of sounds like a graph theory problem.
Yeah. So what? It's like you have a. What are the? So the prerequisite relationship is like an edge from a course node to
Exactly,
another, right?
exactly.
And
Yep,
then
that's right.
you have what, like a list of courses that you're trying to get.
Correct, correct. A list of courses. That's
Yeah.
exactly how
So
it
I'm
is. Yeah.
trying to. And you have a limit to the amount of courses you can take in a semester.
So that wasn't a constraint in the problem, but yeah, that adds a layer of difficulty if you add that constraint. But so the problem I
Uh,
solved now wasn't you can take as many courses as you want. The only constraint was that you can't take a prerequisite till you can't take a
you
course
can't course take in this
till you've completed
prerequisite.
this prerequisite. Correct.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what graph problem that immediately invokes, because like, okay, you have a list of places, nodes you want to visit, but you can't get to them
Exactly. So it's literally
instantly.
just boils down to counting the longest number of edges. If you count the longest number of edges in that graph, that's your answer.
The longest number of edges.
Correct.
That's pretty much the depth of the graph, if I'm using my.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So
Yeah,
a depth first search will be the best
yeah,
approach to it, not a breadth
not
first.
a breadth first. That makes sense. Yeah.
Correct. But both will solve it, but it's just the more efficient one is a depth
Yeah,
first.
because with breadth first, you'd go like wide before you search
Exactly
deep.
before you. Correct.
But the thing I'm thinking
Correct.
is like, so is it given that the graph is acyclic, like no cycles?
Exactly. The graph has to be
Has to be
acyclic. It
acyclic.
has
So
to be,
it's
yeah.
essentially a
Because of prerequisites,
yeah,
it
it's
has to be.
essentially a tree at that point. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you're just finding
It's
like the height of the
it's
tree.
typically not a tree because a tree has so two things about a tree has to have a tree has to have a specific root node, right?
Mm,
And there has to be only one path from the root node to any of the leaves in a tree.
right.
However, even though this graph is acyclic, there's usually not only one path from any node. A node can take two paths to get to a different node. So that makes it a graph, not a tree. Does that kind of make sense?
So let's say there's two nodes S, root R and T, some arbitrary node. So you're saying that
Correct.
there can be uh two paths to get from R to T that can be like
Exactly.
distinct, two distinct
Exactly.
paths. Okay.
Exactly. Or there could be no path at all
Or there could be
to
no
get from
path
R to T. Yeah,
to
because
get
they're
from
not
R to
connected. So
T.
think of it like a semester where you're taking like Calc 1, Calc 2, and Calc 3. Obviously, they're all prerequisites, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you also want to take microeconomics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a tree where the microeconomics doesn't depend on Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3. So in that graph, they are not connected. There's no connection between Calc 1 and microeconomics. Microeconomics 1 has its own connection to property like a microeconomics 2. You see
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So maybe those
Mm-hmm.
are electives you have to take for the semester. But however, you can. So this is a graph. The longest part is going to be Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3. So that would mean you would have to take 3 semesters to take this because you can take all three of them
You
the same
can't
semester.
take in the same
But
semester.
however, while taking it, you can also take macroeconomics 1. You see what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that part, so there are 5 courses in this problem. So Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, macroeconomics 1, and macroeconomics 2. So these
Mm-hmm.
are the 5 courses. So what's the least amount of semesters you need to take all 5 of these courses? It's obviously 3 semesters, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
longest edge is, so think of the graph as there's two separate connections, right? There's the connection of Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, just a straight line, right? And then there's a bottom connection of macroeconomics 1 and macroeconomics 2, which is not connected to Calc 1 and Calc 2. You see what I'm saying? So in
Yeah.
the first semester, you can take Calc 1 and microeconomics 1. In the second semester, you can take Calc 2 and microeconomics 2. And in the third semester, all you have left is Calc 3, and then you've graduated. something like
Gotcha.
that.
Okay,
But
that
those
makes
two
sense.
graphs are kind of independent of each other. There's no connection between
Yeah.
those two individual. So
Yeah.
all you just have to do is find the longest edge in the graph, and you've solved the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot that little tidbit about like the difference between a DAG, directed acyclic, versus a tree. And that makes sense, is that with a graph, some nodes can be isolated, whereas with a tree, they can't. It has to be all
Exactly.
connected from the root in a single path to every node. That makes
Exactly.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason I remember is because I've been studying a lot of LeetCode recently. Aside from that, I'll never remember that.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I can even have this conversation is because I've taken like 2 algorithms class, like the past, is it? No, like, well, I took like algorithms 1 my like 2 semesters ago, and then I take algorithms 2 this past semester. So yeah, I was lucky to pass that class, and glad it's in my rearview mirror. But yeah,
Yeah,
this section of the video is probably gonna be is probably a bit more technical than I wanted to get into, but you know, it happened. It flowed naturally, and I'll probably like, I plan to like, you know, chunk the videos anyways. So this would be like a chunk for all the nerds like us out there that just want to, you know,
I-
listen to this
exactly.
kind of stuff.